Warning! This video contains adult content ranging from extreme violence and gore to foul language and even some other adult-type goodies. Worst transgression of all, major plot and subplot spoilers abound. YouTube viewing discretion is advised.
Immersion, a term that gets thrown around a lot when describing video game titles. Explained simply, immersion means you become engrossed in a fictional virtual world. Maybe you feel like you've actually become a part of that world. For example, did Mass Effect 2 actually make you feel like Commander Shepard? Did having to make hard choices make you feel more immersed in the massive galaxy epic that BioWare laid out for you? Or maybe immersion is defined by the emotional cost a video game enacts upon you. When you played Diablo for the first time and your player character jammed that shard into his skull, did you feel that all was for naught? Was traveling up the highest peaks of Skyrim as the Dragonborn considered immersive? To some, yes. People connected with the characters they created, and they had become immersed in the world of Tamriel.
Now allow me to take a second and throw in my own definition for this broad term. Immersion is whether through personal or given creation, a player takes control of an in-game avatar and becomes engaged or engorged in the world, striving to understand, live, or roleplay the life of their chosen champion. Immersion doesn't need to have freedom, restriction, open world elements, linear gameplay, or even choices, and it doesn't even have to be an intended goal. Some find the infected-filled towns of DayZ to be just as immersive as the wastelands of Fallout, so who am I to say what isn't immersive? At this point, you're probably like, CB, who the fuck cares? We get it. Immersion. Get on with the subjective view already. Fine, fine. The Witcher 3 is, by far, the greatest representation of immersion in a video game I have ever seen. And trust me, I've seen a lot of video games, from the lands of Termina and Hyrule to the Barrens of Mordor and the ruins of DC. Yet I've never seen any world that has actively convinced me it's alive, either through the characters you interact with or the environments that are displayed in the game. From the trees, swaying in the wind as a storm rolls in with clouds covering the sun, to the dark reality of the common folk and citizens of this war-torn land. It's all so alive. The relationships you build with even the most insignificant individuals or the highest lords in the land. This is a world that while you don't want to live in, you're more than happy to romp around in through questing, fighting, or just plain exploring. The game faces you with hard choices. None ever so simple as, this is the good option, this is the bad option, and this is the neutral option. More like, this option leads to less bad things happening, or this option leads to your friend dying. The prime example I will use to demonstrate how immersive I believe this world is the Bloody Baron questline. Warning, major spoilers ahead. Seriously, if you haven't at least finished the questing in Velen, do not watch the rest of this video. I am so super serious right now. Can you tell? I mean, come on. I made this warning screen to last for like 30 seconds, just so you know how freaking serious I am. But anyway, let's get on with it. The Bloody Baron is not a hero. He isn't even really a good guy. Hell, by most people's standards, this guy is downright evil and disgusting. From beating his wife, to severe drunken bouts that range from domestic violence, to beating his men, burning down a stable, and even killing a man in cold blood, then feeding his remains to the hounds. This guy is just not someone who deserves your pity. Yet, he manages to get it. Allow me to explain. The Bloody Baron is one of the earlier quest lines immediately after the prologue areas of White Orchard and Vizima, where you're on the trail for your adopted daughter, Ciri. It turns out Ciri passed through this area, causing a whole bunch of unintended havoc along the way, and the Baron just happens to have the information you need. However, unfortunately for you, the Baron isn't going to pass along this information for free. It also just happens to turn out that the Baron's daughter and wife have both been kidnapped and missing for well past 6 days. Guess what, Witcher? You've got a job to do. So you go on a series of quests for the Baron, ranging from simple kill these monsters to kill this bigger monster to track down my family to let's play a quick game of Gwent and so on. All the while learning more and more about the Baron's disturbing past. Eventually, it turns out that the Baron's family wasn't kidnapped at all, and they actually ran away from him to escape his drunken rampages. One consequence of his tirades, seemingly, was the death of his unborn child, which became a cursed being roaming the countryside, feeding on the blood of pregnant women. Thankfully, you find a way from a guy basically called a Peller or a soothsayer. He's kinda like Yoda. How to free this cursed soul and actually turn it into something useful. This is the start of the Baron's redemption. The realization of the magnitude of his failure as a father. That his alcoholism and his anger not only was hurting himself, but those around him and who loved him, until it completely pushed them out of his life in a very, very bad way. Now, eventually, further on, you find his wife, who has become an insane slave to the rather beautiful ladies of the wood, who have cursed his wife for a deal she made. That deal being, get rid of this baby inside of me because I will not have another of the Baron's children. What's even worse is his daughter, assuming the mother was taken by a demon, had joined a group of questionable crusaders called the Witch Hunters of the Eternal Fire. Is that intense enough for you yet? Don't worry, this is where shit really gets real. During the quest lines, before you've learned the Baron's wife's true identity, you begin working for the Ladies of the Wood, and they want you to kill this nasty heart thing inside of a cave that is actually an imprisoned spirit who defied the ladies. Seems simple enough, right? Wrong. You find out that the orphans who had been orphaned by the war and were taken into care by the Baron's wife, who again you don't know is the Baron's wife, have been taken by the crones or the ladies to be eaten and sustain their life force. The choice you're given is to complete your mission and kill the spirit, or to free it so that it may save the children from such a gruesome fate. Think hard, because this may come back to bite you in the ass. Being the swarthy hero that I am, I consider this a no-brainer, and despite the fact that this was some creepy, demonic-looking satanic tentacle tree in a cave guarded by werewolves, there was absolutely no reason that I shouldn't save those pitiful orphans. So, I released the spirit who released the orphans, but then caused Anna, the Baron's wife, to become cursed, which led to the Baron, his daughter, and I to try and lift the curse. Unfortunately for us, it killed Anna, who was happy to see her family just one last time before the end. The daughter, wrought with grief, decided to leave with the witch hunters for Novigrad, and the Baron hung himself in the courtyard of Crow's Perch, his men on looking. You're left with the guilt of having chosen this man's fate without even meaning to, kicking in a series of events that, no matter what, would cause you to lose. The eyes of the soldiers stare at you, as his sergeant tells you that a new regime shall take power over Velen with the death of the Baron. And it was you, and you alone, who caused the Baron's redemption to mean nothing. His desire to become something good and to reunite his family was a complete failure, because you decided to save a few orphans who, although innocent, have no effect on you, or the fate of the world. What's left in Crow's Perch is a power vacuum, and the Ladies of the Wood still roam free. The weight and consequences of your actions bear heavily on your mind as you wonder if you really did the right thing. Was the Baron's death worth saving the orphans? Maybe you should have let them die, and maybe the Baron would have redeemed himself and led Crow's Perch to a new day of positive light and happiness in a world that is absolutely drowning in darkness. You can't help but wonder,
What'll happen to the denizens of Crow Perch with the rise of quite possibly a far more brutal and oppressive regime? Now those feelings you have right now, that pit in your stomach, that regret, you know what that is? That's immersion. And what I just described is only one questline in a game that has hundreds of stories just like that one. Sure, the gameplay is fun, and the graphics are beautiful, but that's not what immersed me in this game. Truly, it was the liveliness of the world, the trees, the sky, the stories, the people. This game, it almost felt real. And that's why The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is not only the most immersive game I've ever played, but also a masterpiece.
A wreath of flowers. We laughed the day away.
Please, remember me like that.
No.
Each you hold.